The November wind cuts sharp across Highway 47, carrying with it the bite of early winter and the promise of snow. Dead leaves skitter across cracked asphalt like nature's tumbleweed, and the sky hangs low and gray, threatening rain. On the shoulder of this lonely stretch of road, a motorcycle sits silent, its chrome dulled by road dust, its engine cold. Beside it stands a young man in his late 20s, his leather jacket zipped tight against the chill. His name is Jake Morrison, and right now, frustration and worry war across his weathered face. He kicks at the gravel, pulls out his phone for the dozenth time. No signal. Of course there's no signal. This godforsaken stretch of highway has been a dead zone for years. He looks down the empty road in both directions. Nothing but gray horizon and faded yellow lines stretching into nowhere. Jake runs a hand through his dark hair, exhales a cloud of vapor into the cold air. His fuel gauge reads empty. He'd pushed it too far, trying to make it to the next town. Stupid, arrogant, and now he's stuck 20 miles from anywhere with exactly $3.47 in his pocket. Not enough for gas, not enough for anything. The temperature is dropping, fast. That's when he sees her. Margaret Chen is 73 years old, though she'd tell you 72 if you asked. She walks with the careful deliberation of someone whose bones remember every winter they've survived. Her coat, once a deep burgundy, has faded to the color of old wine. It's too thin for this weather, but it's the warmest thing she owns. A plastic shopping bag dangles from her wrist, containing a loaf of day-old bread, a can of soup, and a small carton of milk. The essentials, the only things she could afford after paying for her medication this month. In her other hand, tucked carefully inside her mitten, is a $20 bill. Not two tens, one precious 20. Her entire budget for heating oil until next week's pension check arrives. She's already calculated it out. If she keeps the thermostat at 58 degrees and only heats the bedroom at night, she can make it last. Maybe, if this cold snap doesn't get worse. She notices the motorcycle first, then the young man beside it. He looks lost, defeated. She's seen that look before. It's the same expression her son Daniel wore the last time she saw him, 15 years ago, before his deployment, before the accident that brought him home in a flag-draped coffin. Margaret slows her pace, but doesn't stop. Years of living alone have taught her caution. But then Jake looks up, and their eyes meet, and something in her heart shifts. He's someone's son, she thinks. Someone, somewhere, loves this boy. "Excuse me, ma'am," Jake calls out, his voice hoarse. "I don't suppose you have a phone I could borrow. Mine's got no signal out here." Margaret stops, turns to face him fully. Up close, she can see the dark circles under his eyes, the road dust on his jacket, the way his hands tremble slightly. From cold or hunger or both. "I don't carry a cell phone, dear," she says gently. "Never learned how to use one of those things." What seems to be the trouble? Jake gestures helplessly at his bike. "Ran out of gas. I thought I could make it to Millbrook, but..." He trails off, shrugs. "I'm an idiot." "You're not an idiot," Margaret says firmly. "You're just someone having a hard day. We all have those." There's a pause. The wind picks up, and Margaret's thin coat flutters. She shivers, just slightly, but Jake notices. "You shouldn't be out in this cold, ma'am. Is there someone I can call for you when I get somewhere with service?" Margaret smiles at that. Even stranded and broke, this young man is thinking of her. "I'm just walking home from the store," she says. "Not much farther now." "But what about you? How are you going to get gas?" Jake's jaw tightens. "I'll figure something out. Maybe hitch a ride to town, see if I can find some work for the day. Come back with a gas can." He doesn't sound convinced by his own plan. Margaret knows that look too. It's pride wrestling with desperation. It's the same look she sees in her own mirror some mornings. Her hand tightens around the $20 bill in her mitten. Daniel's voice echoes in her memory. "Mom, if you ever see someone who needs help, help them. That's what makes us human." She pulls out the 20 and holds it toward Jake. "Here," she says simply. Jake's eyes widen. "Ma'am, no, I can't." "Yes, you can," Margaret interrupts gently. "Take it. There's a gas station about 4 miles back. That should be enough for gas and maybe a hot coffee. Ma'am, I appreciate it, but I can't take your money. You look like you need it more than I do. His voice cracks slightly on the last words. Margaret steps closer, pressing the bill into his cold hand. Her fingers, wrinkled and spotted with age, close around his calloused ones. Son, she says, looking up into his eyes, I had a boy once. His name was Daniel. He was about your age when he passed, and I used to pray every single night that if he was ever stranded somewhere, cold and alone, that someone would help him. Her voice wavers, but doesn't break. He's gone now. But you're here. And maybe this is how I keep that prayer alive. Jake stares at the 20 in his hand, then back at Margaret. His throat works, and his eyes shine with sudden moisture. I promise I'll pay you back, he manages. I swear to God, I'll find you and pay you back. Margaret shakes her head, smiling through her own tears. I don't want it back, dear. Just promise me something else. Promise me that when you're able, when you see someone else who needs help, you'll do the same. Pass it forward. Jake nods, unable to speak. He manages a whispered, You got it, ma'am. I promise. What's your name, son? Jake. Jake Morrison. I'm Margaret Chen. And Jake, you're not an idiot. You're just someone having a hard day. But this day will pass. They always do. She pats his hand once more, then continues down the road, her shopping bag swinging gently. Jake watches her go, this tiny woman in her thin coat, who just gave away what he suspects might have been her last $20. He looks down at the bill again, runs his thumb over it. Then he carefully folds it and puts it in his inner jacket pocket, close to his heart. Thank you, Miss Margaret, he calls after her. She raises one hand in acknowledgement without turning around, and soon, she's just a small figure disappearing down the gray stretch of highway. Jake stands there for a long moment, looking at the money, then at the empty road, then up at the colorless sky. Something has shifted in him, something he can't quite name yet. He mounts his bike, fires up the engine with the last fumes in the tank, and coasts back toward the gas station, the rumble echoing across the empty landscape. That night, Margaret's small house is dark and cold. The thermostat stays off. The $20 that should have bought heating oil is gone, converted instead into gasoline for a stranger's motorcycle. She doesn't regret it, not even as she wraps herself in 2 blankets and an old quilt that Daniel used as a boy. Not even as her breath comes out in small clouds in the darkness of her bedroom. Not even as she shivers and pulls the covers tighter. Before sleep takes her, she whispers into the cold, Daniel, I hope I did right. I hope you're proud of me. Outside, the temperature drops to 28 degrees. Inside, Margaret Chen sleeps, dreaming of warmer days. The next morning, Margaret wakes to a sound that doesn't belong. At first, she thinks it's thunder, a late autumn storm rolling in, but the rumble is too steady, too rhythmic, and it's getting louder. She shuffles to her front window, her joints stiff from the cold night, and pulls back the yellowed curtain. Her hand flies to her mouth. Outside, lining both sides of her narrow street, are motorcycles, dozens of them, chrome gleaming in the weak morning sun, exhaust pipes rumbling like a pride of mechanical lions. She counts 10, 15, 20. She loses count. There must be at least 50 bikes out there. And standing at the front of the formation, helmet under his arm and a wide smile on his face, is Jake Morrison. Margaret's hands shake as she fumbles with the door lock. It takes 3 tries to get it open. She steps out onto her small concrete porch in her bathrobe and slippers, the cold air stealing her breath. The rumbling engines idle down to a purr. Morning, Miss Margaret, Jake calls out, his voice carrying clear in the sudden quiet. Told you I'd pay you back. Margaret clutches her bathrobe closed. Jake, what is all this? Jake walks forward, and as he does, the crowd of bikers behind him comes into focus. Men and women of all ages, all wearing leather and denim, all watching her with warm smiles. Some are young, barely out of their teens. Others are gray-haired and weathered. All of them are here. Miss Margaret, Jake says, stopping at the bottom of her porch steps. After you helped me yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about you. So when I got to Millbrook, I called my riding club, told them what you did, How you gave your last $20 to a complete stranger without even blinking. A woman with silver hair braided down her back steps forward. We're the Asphalt Angels, she says, her voice strong and clear. We ride together, and we look out for each other. That's our code. But what you did, Miss Margaret, that's a higher code. That's pure kindness. Jake continues. So I told them about you, and then I did some asking around town. Found out about your house, about your situation. He pauses, his expression growing serious. Found out that your furnace is broken, your roof leaks in 3 places, and you've been living on pension checks that barely cover your medication. Margaret's cheeks flush. I don't need charity, young man. I'm doing just fine. With all due respect, ma'am, says a burly man with a gray beard stepping forward. Nobody who gives away their heating money is doing just fine. You're surviving. There's a difference. Jake smiles gently. Miss Margaret, we're not here to embarrass you. We're here to thank you. Because what you did for me, it reminded every single person here why we ride in the first place. Freedom, brotherhood, and taking care of our own. But I'm not one of yours, Margaret whispers. You are now, says the silver-haired woman. The moment you helped Jake, you became family. Another rider, a young black woman with kind eyes, steps forward holding an envelope. Miss Margaret, we took up a collection. Every rider here pitched in what they could. Some gave $5, some gave 50. A few of the local businesses heard what we were doing and donated too. Margaret takes the envelope with trembling hands. I can't accept this. It's too much. I only gave $20. Open it, Jake says softly. She does. Inside is a cashier's check. Her eyes widen as she reads the amount. $25,000. Her knees buckle. 2 riders rush forward to steady her. That can't be right, she breathes. This must be a mistake. No mistake, says the bearded man. That's enough to fix your furnace, patch your roof, and set you up with a decent savings account. So you're not choosing between medicine and heating oil anymore. Tears stream down Margaret's face. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Jake says. But there's more. More? How can there possibly be more? Jake grins and points down the street. See that truck? Margaret squints. At the end of her street, parked just around the corner, is a large pickup truck with a trailer attached. On the trailer is lumber, tools, and what looks like roofing materials. We got permits from the city, Jake explains. Starting today, we're fixing this place up. New roof, new furnace. We're going to seal the windows, fix that front step that's coming loose, and paint the whole exterior. One of our guys is a contractor, another's an electrician. We've got 3 plumbers in the club, and a woman who does interior design. The silver-haired woman adds, by the end of next week, Miss Margaret, your house is going to be warmer and safer than it's been in decades. Margaret sinks down onto her porch step, overwhelmed. The envelope falls from her fingers. Jake picks it up gently and places it back in her hands. Why? She whispers. Why would you all do this for me? Jake crouches down so he's at eye level with her. Because you saw me when I was invisible. You helped me when I was helpless. And you did it expecting nothing in return. His voice grows thick with emotion. Do you know how rare that is, Miss Margaret? Do you know how few people in this world would give their last $20 to a stranger? Anyone would have done the same, Margaret protests weakly. No, ma'am, says the bearded man. They really wouldn't. I've been stranded on the side of the road. I've been broke and hungry and alone, and I can count on one hand the number of people who stopped to help. You're special, Miss Margaret. You're what the world should be. The young black woman kneels beside Jake. You taught us something important. You reminded us that kindness isn't about what you have, it's about what you give. And you gave everything you had. Margaret looks around at all the faces watching her, young and old, every color, every background, united by motorcycles and the open road, and now by her small act of kindness. I just did what my son would have wanted, she says softly. He always said we have to help each other. That's what makes us human. He sounds like he was a wise man, Jake says gently. And I bet he'd be real proud of his mama right now. That breaks her. Margaret covers her face and sobs. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of knowing she's not alone, that the world isn't as cold as it seemed yesterday. That kindness does come back around. The riders give her space to cry, respecting her dignity even as they surround her with their presence. Finally, Margaret wipes her eyes and stands. The riders help her up. She looks at Jake, then at the assembled crowd. "Thank you," she says, her voice stronger now. "All of you. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for caring. Thank you for reminding an old woman that there's still good in this world." "Thank you for reminding us first," Jake says. The engines roar to life, a symphony of power and purpose. The neighbors have come out now, lining their porches and lawns, watching this impossible scene unfold. Some are filming on their phones. Others just stare in wonder. The silver-haired woman steps forward one more time. "One more thing, Miss Margaret. Every year we do a big ride for charity. This year, we'd like to dedicate it to you and your son Daniel. We're calling it the Daniel Chen Memorial Ride for Veterans and Families. All proceeds go to helping other folks like you who've sacrificed for this country." Margaret's hand goes to her heart. "You do that? For Daniel?" "It would be our honor, ma'am." Margaret nods, unable to speak. She mouths the words, "Thank you," over and over. Jake puts his helmet on, then pauses. "Miss Margaret, that promise you made me make, about helping someone else when I can, yes, I'm going to keep it. Every single day for the rest of my life. That's my promise to you." "And mine," says the silver-haired woman. "Mine too," echoes the bearded man. One by one, every rider calls out their agreement. 50 voices promising to carry forward the kindness that Margaret showed. She stands on her porch, wrapped in her thin bathrobe, tears freezing on her cheeks, and smiles wider than she has in 15 years. The motorcycles pull away one by one, engines thundering, pipes echoing off the small houses of Margaret's street. But a dozen riders stay behind, already unloading tools and materials, ready to start the work. Jake is the last to leave. He revs his engine once, twice, then rides off with a final wave. Margaret watches until he's out of sight. Then she looks down at the envelope in her hands, at the check that will change her life, at the proof that kindness does matter. She thinks of Daniel. She thinks of her $20 bill. She thinks of how the smallest gesture can ripple outward in ways we never imagine. "Daniel," she whispers to the morning sky. "Looks like the world still has good people after all." Behind her, power tools whir to life. Hammers strike nails. People laugh and call out measurements. Her house, so cold and quiet for so long, suddenly hums with life and purpose. Margaret goes inside to make coffee for her unexpected construction crew, her heart full, her faith in humanity restored. 6 months later, Margaret Chen stands on her newly built front porch, watching the sun set over her street. Her house gleams with fresh paint. Warm air flows from her new furnace. Her roof no longer leaks. But more than that, she's not alone anymore. Every Sunday, at least a few members of the Asphalt Angels stop by. They bring groceries, share meals, and tell stories of the road. Margaret has become their honorary grandmother, and they've become the family she thought she'd lost. The Daniel Chen Memorial Ride raised $40,000 in its first year. 20 families received help. 20 stories got better endings. And somewhere out on Highway 47, late at night, when the road is empty and the stars are bright, travelers sometimes report seeing a small woman in a burgundy coat walking alongside the highway. They say if you're stranded, if you're lost, if you're at the end of your rope, she appears. And somehow, everything works out. It's just a legend, of course, a story. But every legend starts with truth. And every act of kindness creates its own kind of magic. Margaret gave away $20 and got 50 hearts in return. That's not a miracle. That's just how kindness works.